everybody. I'm Jesse, and welcome to another edition of Gen X Thinks. And today I'm going to talk about freedom and what it is, because it's actually a pretty complex subject. It's not as easy and cut and dry and black and white as we all like to believe. There are some complexities to it and some misunderstandings, and there are caveats. The main caveat and the thing that people need to understand when you're talking about freedom is freedom, just all out freedom, and then you have freedom in a civilized society. All right. So freedom back, as a barbarian or something, where you can just take an axe and chop up your neighbor if you like what he has. That's all out freedom. You do whatever you want. There is no consequences. Say what you want, do what you want, hurt other people, doesn't matter. Complete and utter freedom. All right. And then you have freedom in a civilized society. And there, complete and true freedom is where you're only denied the ability to infringe on someone else's freedoms or rights. You just can't hurt other people. And in there, you can't hurt, like those that can't protect themselves, the children, animals, Mother Nature. You can't just destroy Mother Nature because you feel like it. So in civilized society, we have laws to protect those who can't protect themselves, and laws from infringing on the rights of other free people. And in this idea of freedom in a civilized society, you have this scale, this weight and balance, right? Because the more safety you have, the less freedom you have. And the more freedom you have, the less safety you have. So if you think about it, the safest you could possibly be would be to be wrapped up in a straitjacket in a padded room and fed, Jell-O with protein in it and stuff to keep you alive, where you couldn't even hurt yourself. No window, nothing sharp, nothing hard, nothing but a padded cell. And that would be complete and utter safety. All right. But absolutely zero freedom. And the other end of that spectrum is, like I was said earlier with the barbarians, where there's absolutely no safety at all. Someone could come charging into your house with an axe at any moment and without consequence. But you're completely and utterly free to do the same. There's no consequences to any of your actions. You just run around doing whatever the hell you want. So in a civilized society, based on freedom, you've got to find a happy medium there. Okay? And in America, we have a constitution. And we talk a lot about the First and Second Amendments. The First Amendment is the freedom of speech. We all have the freedom of speech, supposedly. We're supposed to. And what that means is the freedom of speech basically is, at its very core principle, is that every one of us has the right to be wrong. That's it. We have the right to be wrong. We can be wrong and change our minds lately. We can be wrong and be stubborn our entire lives and die wrong. That's just the way it is. As long as we aren't harming anyone else and taking away their rights or their freedoms, we can be wrong. No one can silence us. No one can, they can tell us we're wrong. They have the right to tell us we're wrong. But we don't have we're not forced to adopt their beliefs. You have the right to be wrong. That is the core of the First Amendment. Because if you're free to speak, but you can only say the things that people think are right, then there's no freedom of speech. If the majority of the people think that people should be beheaded for speaking out against the government, you would be wrong to speak out against that, but you have to. Someone has to, right? So just because the majority believes it, that makes it right. Okay? So you have the right to speak out and be wrong, to stand out from the crowd and be wrong and point the finger and say, and that goes the other way. Even the people that are literally wrong, people are allowed to be racist. It's morally reprehensible, but in America, you have that right. You have that freedom to speak your mind, and we have the freedom to ignore you. So that's just the core of it. You have the right to be wrong. And the Second Amendment, this always gets confused, and it gets confused because the government and the powers that be twist it just like they twist the First Amendment. They twist these things. I'll go back to the First Amendment. They're conflating words with violence now. Speech is violence. They say it right like that. I mean, it's completely ridiculous on its face. Speech is not violence. Words are not violent. You can call me whatever you want. It's not going to put me in the hospital. I'm not going to have to get stitches because you called me a dumbass. Never, ever will that ever happen. It's impossible because it's not violent. So all of this ridiculous rhetoric and this stuff that's being pushed down from above is just to take our rights. So when you hear that shit, that words are violent, that is just to take our rights. That is an attack on the First Amendment. And sometimes our government, the government, the deep state, the powers that be, whatever you want to call it, it's basically the same thing throughout Western civilization right now. It's one top-down thing. But they will pick up on stuff, like they'll see stuff that gets popular in the younger generation, and they will pick up on that and reinforce it. Words are violence, right? Men are women, stuff like that. Just weird backwards logic stuff but they'll pick up on it and then just keep repeating it over and over again until it just lodges itself in the herd psyche. So now on to the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is there for us to defend ourselves against a tyrannical government. That's it. That's the only reason. It's not for hunting. It's not for self-defense. It's not for any of these other reasons that the powers that be, the media and stuff, like to quote, like to say, like to spin it around on its face. No, it's for us. And we are supposed to be armed equally to the federal government by law. So all of this stuff, all these gun restrictions and gun laws, and that's why I honestly believe that just the powers that be have a hand in a lot of our tragedies here in America, because they want to sway public sympathy over to anti-gun, anti-Second Amendment. Now, that is why we've just got to resist this stuff. We've got to. It's just an attack on our rights. It's an attack on our freedom. Never have I seen a conservative, patriot, level-headed, even anybody that considers themselves a Republican, and never have I seen them go off and start shooting a bunch of stuff. Never. No hunter, no just, country boy or any of this stuff. It's always a leftist, wacko, Democrat, progressive person that's doing all this violence. So why? That's that's another big coincidence. Why is it that it's always these left-wing nut jobs with, just these weird ideas who go off and do violence? Why is it never a conservative? Why don't you ever see a Mormon or an Amish person out there doing some dirt? Never. It's never happened. And I'm willing to bet it never will. It's always left-wing whack jobs. And they want to take our Second Amendment rights because these left-wing whack jobs who are against the Second Amendment go out and shoot people. And when you look at the statistics, it's even gunshots are way down in the medical and pharmaceutical industry, kill millions upon millions of more people than gunshots ever could. Yeah, it's insane. But just statistically speaking, just look at the science and the math. You want to get rid of the pharmaceutical industry, not the guns. Guns save more people probably in self-defense from home invasion and stuff than any pharmaceutical ever would. So, or I bet it's close. I bet if you looked up the statistic, it's close. And then we have the right in America and everybody says that the First Amendment's the most important, right? I get that, and it's perfectly valid. The First Amendment's there, and the Second Amendment is there to protect the First. Okay, and that's completely valid, and I believe the First Amendment is close to the most important, but we have the right in America to pursue happiness. It's in our Constitution. We have the right to the pursuit of happiness. And I believe that is equal to the First Amendment, if not more important. Because without that, nothing else matters. Who gives a shit if you can speak out against the government if you don't have the right to pursue happiness? If they're dragging you off and putting you in a cell, you can speak out against them all you want. It won't matter. So the right to pursue happiness is very important, and I think that is the one that is most infringed upon every day. Because all of these laws and regulations, we've got so many of these laws and regulations that attack us, attack our pocket, take our money, and make us criminals without victims. There's no victims to these crimes. So how can you have, and I'll give you an example, the seatbelt law, all right? What if it makes me happy to drive without a seatbelt? Okay, now I can drive to the store without a seatbelt. I wouldn't hurt anyone. No one would be injured. That doesn't put anyone else in danger. Why do we have this law? Now, if a cop pulls me over and gives me a ticket for not having a seatbelt, he will take my money. And I haven't harmed anyone. No one. Now, my personal opinion on it is that I would wear a seatbelt regardless of the law. I don't care. If I get in an accident, I want to have a seatbelt on. I would wear it. But I don't like the government telling me to do it. I do not like being told what to do, especially by the government. Period. I believe that seatbelts are like... I have the same view of seatbelts as I do abortion. Everyone should wear a seatbelt, but no one should be mandated to wear a seatbelt. Abortion should be legal, but no one should have them. That's just the way I feel. These laws and restrictions. Now, abortion is a completely different issue. We can get into all kinds of stuff there. But I know it's completely different, but I just happen to feel the same way on those two issues. But all of these laws that take our money and make us into criminals and put us in the court system and all this, when we haven't impinged on anyone else's freedoms, we haven't damaged their property, we haven't done anything to any other human being, there is no victim involved in this crime, all these victimless crimes that just attack our wallets, take our money from our families. I just disagree with them on their face. Period. I mean, if you keep following that road, I mean, you put other people, it's more dangerous, right? To do one thing is more dangerous. Let's put it speeding. Let's say we got a highway out here called 75. If you do 120 miles an hour on 75, okay, and you don't hurt anyone. If you don't hurt anyone, you're still breaking the law, even though you haven't hurt anyone. There's no victim to that crime. All right? But you're restricted on your speed because it's unsafe. Now, if you did hurt someone, that would be different. Now you're guilty of something, in my opinion. But now to take that a step further, I am putting people at risk. It is unsafe for me to leave my house. I have a lot, it just, the odds of me accidentally harming or even killing someone when I leave my house skyrocket. 10,000% higher every time I walk out that door. So where do we draw the line here? How safe do we have to make everyone? How much of our freedoms do we have to take away in the name of safety? Public safety. We have to be vigilant of these things and draw the line somewhere, right? Because pretty soon, they did it in 2020. People weren't allowed to leave their house for public safety. The exact thing right there. Weren't allowed to leave your house. Well, in Florida we were. It didn't really faze us in Florida because we're not leftist lunatic state. I'm sure we have our leftist lunatics in government, but they're not the majority, that's for sure. So it was just nothing much changed in Florida in 2020. But that's my point. If they can keep us locked in our houses in the name of public safety, that you can, if they'll do it, they'll do it. What's the next excuse they're going to come up with? So they restrict our freedoms and restrict our freedoms. They scare us with whatever and then restrict our freedoms in the name of public safety. And now, because I'm scared, I'm going to trust the government now all of a sudden and beg them to lock me up to keep me safe. And this is the thing about freedom. The scale thing I mentioned earlier. Because the government is constantly pushing down on one side of the scale. Constantly, forever. And if we take our hand off the other side, they get some. They get some of our freedom every single time. They've had the TSA up there ever since whenever it got instituted after 9/11. They have not caught one single terrorist, but they have harassed travelers in America and searched us and just invasion of privacy over and over again, and they have not caught one single terrorist. Not one. To this day. What are they doing besides harassing Americans? But we're supposed to be safer, right? That's what we're told. We're safer. We're supposed to thank the government for the TSA. So be vigilant and remember how much freedom we have to give up for whatever safety they're offering, whatever carrot they're dangling in front of our nose. How much freedom? What's the cost of that? What's the cost of that safety? What's the cost of that carrot? because there is a cost, and it is your freedom. 100% guaranteed. And I'll leave you there with that. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, or comment. If you'd like to support the channel by becoming a member, I'll put that link down in the description, or you can hop over to the channel page and become a member that way. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can click on that super thanks button down there. Or you can head over to Buy Me a Cup of Coffee and buy me a cup of coffee. I'll put that link down in the description too. Thank you very much for those of you who do that. If you're interested in Gen X gear, you can go check out what we have over there at Redbubble. T-shirts, coffee mugs, stickers, all kinds of cool stuff. Gen X Thinks and Gen X branded stuff. And I'll put that link down in the description as well. If you can't or don't want to support the channel in any of those ways, you can always do so by sharing these videos in your social media. I appreciate those of you who do that very sincerely. Thank you for doing your part to spread American values, to raise awareness about freedom and the people who are trying to infringe on our freedoms and our rights. Thank you very much. If you have any ideas for future episodes of Gen X Things, please put those down in the comments, or you can go over to the channel page and email us from there. And as always, stay frosty, Gen X, and I'll see you on the next one.